how well we can deepen our democracy as we move towards the next election in Ondo State. Joining us to talk on that as a legal practitioner, Mr. Benson Enikuomehin. Good to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, so far so good. We had Kaide Ido, the INEC media chief, to Professor Tahiru Jega here on the program, and he did say INEC gradually is coasting to that level or position where we'll say we're getting somewhere when it comes to instituting our democratic processes.
Well, the statement is not far from the truth. Comparing that statement with what we've had in some years back. As far back as 79, some of us have had the privilege of being involved in voting and all that. To 83, then we'll come to the period of the late Chief Abiola election, and then the one of 1999, 2003, 2007, 11, and we're moving forward. I think, by and large, no matter what anyone may have said, I think INEC has improved. It has improved very tremendously, particularly under the leadership of Professor Tahiru Jega. But again, I must also be quick to add that the performance of Jega also must be linked with the will of the government, the will of Mr. President. Mr. President did promise that he was going to look for a person very credible, reliable, and that he was going to give the person a free hand. So it is one thing to select a responsible, reliable individual. It's yet another thing to tie a string round his neck, either by frustrating him financially or giving him some instructions behind the door, which nobody will be able to fault. But I think by and large, I can see sincerity both in the president and the leadership of INEC. So the statement of the gentleman, combining the action of the two of them together, I think we can go a long way.
You know, from what you just said, trying to go back to 1979, and remember, loads of people remember FEDECO, NEC, now INEC, irrespective of what names we've given them to the state. But again, looking at the personalities from Justice Oviewhisky down even to Abel Gobadia, Morris Iwu, and now you're talking about Jega, but people have always talked about the institutions and not the individual. Yeah. But from the picture you just painted, it looks to us that the individual really counts in us making this amount of progress.
Building institution is good, but it is individuals that will build the institution. You go to some schools, some old secondary schools or university as it were, you will find that the morality, the teaching in those schools were built by individuals who had morality in themselves. So the institution will not just spring up on its own. Individuals must develop this institution. And so when we have credible individuals who are in charge of the affairs of the state, the institution will be well built. Show me your friend. I'll tell you the kind of individual who you are. So show me institutions that are well manned, that are well managed, then definitely you will find an institution that will stay very well. And I think the last time I met Professor Jega at the airport, I gave him a handshake. I wouldn't have done that to his predecessor. I wouldn't have done that. I said, sir, you did well. What we saw in the last election, you did your best. Yes, there were areas that were not good enough, that were not neat enough, for which we must improve. But we must give credit to the person who has done well. And that's why I went behind and said, apart from Jega, somebody sought for Jega. Somebody could have looked for another individual. The president could have looked for somebody else. Could have looked for an individual who's not Jegaistic in nature.
It's a very interesting thing that you have said that, because I mean you're linking the will of the president to the individual as well.
That's right.
Assuming you said that assuming that the president had brought him in and did not give him the freedom to work, would they still have impinged on his own integrity?
That's what I'm saying. That you see, while we appreciate the person and the leadership of Jega and what he's doing, and I must tell you, Jega's action definitely will be rubbing down on the state resident electoral commissioner. My good friend Mike Igini is there in Cross River State, and he's doing well. And so these credible individuals that are coming on board, looking at the leadership, because the leadership determines a lot of things. If the leadership is corrupt, No, once a tree is bad, the fruits that will come from that particular tree will definitely be bad. So what I've pointed out is that Professor Jega and his team are doing very well, but we must also commend Mr. President, who has now said, please let it be. Look at his own election. He said, my becoming president does not worth the blood of any Nigerian. It's different from, if you don't mind, we do it, we will die. It's different. Those are different stories. Look at what has taken place in Edo State. As soon as Adam Oshomole won, he congratulated him. Yes, his party was involved in the election. And then he appreciated us again to say, now let us untwist what is happening. So this man is leading the legacy. I do hope that Jega and whoever may be succeeding him after he would have finished his term or terms, as the case may be, will also follow suit and build and not destroy what is going on. So we can move forward. There's an improvement in what has happened in the country over time, particularly compared to 2003 and 2007.
But it will still seem that there is a distrust of electoral bodies, in spite of all of this, steps that you have shown, or you have explained that the president has taken, and even Professor Jega has taken, to tell Nigerians that we truly have a credible body that you can trust. It seems it would take a while before that trust comes.
You see, if you tie a dog to a rope, and the dog had been there for about 3 or 4 years, and the dog moves to a step, and it can no longer go, even when you release the rope, it will still take a while for the dog to believe that particular rope has been taken away from him. So we have been used to this system over time. So it will take a while for us hearing this, listening to them, the authorities educating us, and for us believing what they are saying. It's not because Nigerians are all, we are not all negative people, as it were, but if you see good leadership, let me give you an instance. I've been in Lagos for a while. As far back as 1969, I've been in Lagos. And I've seen what has taken place in Lagos. But look at what Fashola did within the period in which he came on board. It is not because he has turned Lagos into an Eldorado. But all of us appreciate Fashola. We look at what Jakande did. Around 79, schools were having 2 terms or 3 terms, so 3 sections, as it were. Face those ones out. You will commend individual for what he has done. And therefore, for Nigerians to believe, we must be consistent. The government must be consistent, the leadership must be consistent in what they say, not only saying it, but practicing it. And I think I must commend Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for appointing a person like Jega and for giving him the freedom, and not only giving him the freedom, but for Jega also building on his own integrity and then doing something that we are all proud of. I'm happy of what happened in Edo.